Hello, this is Mabel with a short video on simple strategies for communication between people with different neurotypes. Unfortunately, this is not my own work, but it is based on some strategies, mostly from the AANE, and you'll see their link on the video description. So we'll talk about some challenges and what we can do about them. So let's start. The first challenge is perspective taking. We know sometimes we see things from our point of view and our partner sees them from a different one. They're both equally valid because we have different neurophysiologies and we get into a kind of tug of war between us. And we each is trying to really convey what is true for themselves and kind of convince the other. And that doesn't work. So what can we do about that? Let's look at this picture and tell me quickly, what can you see? Some of you might see a dog and some others may see a bunny or a rabbit or a hare even. So that's fine. Some people can see both, but I doubt they can see both at the same time. They may see one first and the other afterwards. Because the brain cannot seem to hold two different, maybe contradictory ideas at the very same time. Not usually. So I think this is a very good reminder for us to see that we can own our own reality. We know what we can see. We know what we can't see. And we can also validate our partners in their own view of life. Another challenge we seem to experience is turn taking. And one of us may start talking and the other interrupts, and it can be from both sides, really. And the person who interrupts may take the conversation somewhere else because they're not interested in the main point, or they find the topic of conversation helpful or whatever. Or maybe we are just being very enthusiastic and we get carried away. So, in essence, we fail to take turns properly. We fail to remember that this is a dialogue, not a monologue. And hopefully, we can remember the QAAA strategy or the QA cube strategy. It's not cubic, it's cube. QA cubed strategy. And this simply means that one person asks a question and stops, and the other person gets to answer in 3 lines, which hopefully will be concise and match the question. And then we switch roles, and then the second person, the one who was answering, gets a chance to ask a question from the one who was asking before. And we keep switching. This seems to be easier than having reflective listening with autistic people. Some autistic people really struggle with repeating the essence of what we've said, especially with repeating it in different words. So this is kind of halfway through that. At least we can take turns and hopefully listen and get listened to. Now, sometimes we experience a challenge with the tone and volume of what is being said. So it can be too much for either, or it may not really match the emotions that have arisen. The volume may be too loud, but we don't really mean to come across as angry. So one strategy is to have a 1 to 5 scale. Of course, no scale is useful unless we agree on what it means. So first of all, we have to agree on a scale from 1 to 5. It can be from 1 to 10 or whatever we want. But 1 to 5 seems to be enough. And we will use it when we need to adjust the volume or the tone of voice. And we can say something like, that volume or that tone was a 5 for me. Could we continue talking as a 3, please? We can also use this strategy actually for emotions. And when we notice one of us is getting agitated or upset or something, we can say, well, you seem to be going up in your emotional scale. Can I check? How are you feeling from 1 to 5? And if we get a high number from our artistic partner, maybe we can agree to take a little break. And if they are the ones who ask us, and we can do the same and say, well, no, this is not working for me right now. Let's have a little pause and come back to this issue later. And the last challenge we're going to look at is a very common one, because when we don't look at things and things don't get resolved, or we don't have much chance to share what's going on in our lives, then when we do get a chance, we have too much to talk about. So it looks a bit like all these post-it notes here. So the strategy is, as you could have imagined, to talk about one topic at a time and stick to that topic for this session and then go and do something else. I find it difficult sometimes not to share things that are important for me with my husband. So what I do is I tell him something, maybe he has something to contribute or to improve on it, and then we kind of close the subject and I leave the room quickly before I get tempted to raise another point. So in that way, we both end up on a good note, and there's more to talk about later, and we have energy to talk about it in the future rather than getting exhausted trying to bring out too many topics at a time. This really works for me. So I hope you find something useful on this little video. Bye for now.